Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track with a closed Facebook group. Every Thursday, members submit questions, other members upvote them, and as we're doing right now, they get answered live every week. And as always, the Linchpin private track, the Facebook group, you guys, you come through with some excellent questions, and today is no different. And actually, I guess I should say as a shout out, if you are a member of the Linchpin private track and you're not on or in the Facebook group, I get it. Trust me, I am not a fan of Facebook, and the only thing that I do on Facebook is interact with this group, and we have a lot of members that are the exact same. So, I don't know, get yourself a Facebook account, use an abbreviation of your last name so people can't find you, but then send a request and get in here because the community is fantastic. All right, here we go. So, first most upvoted question was from Phil T, who basically asks, what are some of the worst or scariest coaching experience or funny ones that I can share that still crack me up? Oh, could have gone in a series of directions with this one. And one just popped into my head from a level 1 seminar that I didn't think about until right now. It involves a vulgarity. Maybe I can work my way around that. So, worst or funniest? Here we go. All right, Phil, you asked for it. Disclaimer before I even start this. I was not a coach when I'm about to tell these stories occurred. It was just me and my knucklehead friends having no real clue what true CrossFit actually was, thinking that we knew what it was, and trying to kill ourselves in my garage. That's probably the most honest assessment that I could do. Nobody was a coach. Nobody was a trainer. We all had a powerful dose of ignorance and testosterone. So, the two go hand in hand frequently. So, one of the ones which, looking back, was just, it is what it is. We decided one day, you know what would be a great idea? Just to build up not only some physical strength, but some mental toughness. Establish a 1 rep max for time. Front rack hold. So basically just load a ton of weight onto the barbell and the squat rack. Get into the front rack position as if you're going to front squat it, but we're not. Just take a half step or 1 step out of the rack so that your body is, taking the load. And how long can you just endure and hold it in the front rack position? We decided a great load for gentlemen would be 405 pounds in the front rack position, and women should do 275 pounds. And it wasn't a good idea from the get-go, but that didn't deter us from continuing on with our mission. And what went slightly sideways, and luckily not more sideways than it did, was when one of the women in the group unracked 275, took a big breath, probably should have done a bit more breathing than she did, and for just a millisecond blacked out while holding 275 pounds in the front rack position. And luckily all that caused was like a shake and a step backwards, regain consciousness, and dropped the barbell, and it didn't involve her tumbling backwards with almost 300 pounds in the front rack position. Not smart. You shouldn't do it. It was stupid, but you know what? We did it. Not proud of it. Didn't know what we're doing. Weren't coaches or trainers. Just dumb people doing dumb things. So that's one of them that jumps out at me. And then the other one was, so there's a hero workout named Michael. And Michael is 3 rounds for time. As a matter of fact, we should probably do it at Linchpin. 3 rounds for time of an 800-meter run, 50 back extensions, and 50 sit-ups. Not a barbell in sight. And that workout is named after a SEAL that was killed, whose name is Mike McGreevy. And Mike McGreevy was a new guy at SEAL Team 4 at the same time that I was a new guy at SEAL Team 4. And so we weren't in the same platoon, but we passed each other in the hallway all the time, the locker room, meetings in the morning, etc., etc., PTs together, everybody was there, Mike was there. And so anyway, this workout is named after Mike McGreevy. So, it was near and dear to our hearts because we obviously knew this guy. And again, not coaches, not trainers, just a bunch of young knuckleheads with a lot of ignorance and testosterone. And we figured I just got a shiny new GHD delivered to my garage. We didn't know what the heck we should do with it, but we knew that we saw it in some CrossFit videos, and darn it, we should have it and we should use it. And we saw these GHD sit-up things that people would do every now and then in these CrossFit videos. So it sounds like a great idea, even though none of us had any exposure to GHD sit-ups at all. Let's do the hero workout Michael with GHD sit-ups, so that our first exposure will be 3 sets of 50. There you go. Enter my other buddy. We'll just use his first name because he's still active duty as far as I know, Nick. And Nick, also a SEAL at the time, still is. And Nick was Nick was a ferocious animal. Let's just put that out there. Did not have an off switch. And Nick was about 1 week away from going to dev group screening. So he was going to go do a very demanding physical screening test to try to get into a different unit in special warfare and whatnot, different unit of SEALs. And so we dosed up Nick with Michael, but with GHD sit-ups. And no doubt about it, we gave Nick rhabdo. Unquestionably, we messed him up. He was swollen, just visibly in agony, couldn't stand. The whole 9 years, Nick had rhabdo. So we didn't really know much about what that was either. Again, we were just a bunch of idiots not knowing what we were doing. So Nick just basically laid in agony in his apartment or his condo for about a week, just hoping that he recovered. Probably making poor decisions, as can happen in special operations community. I'm probably assume that some beers would be a good thing to wash away the soreness. And then he showed up somehow hobbled the next week to the screening test, the physical fitness screening test for dev group, with full-blown rhabdo, and is such a stark raving lunatic that he passed, and he's been there for years. So anyway, just some of the treasure chests I have of just knucklehead things that I've done, and I tried to keep other human beings from doing. So please don't do anything that we just said right there. The other funny one, which is a funny one, that happened at a level 1 seminar a long time ago. I don't remember where it was, don't remember the year. I was the flow master, gave my opening remarks, trying to make everybody comfortable and feel good, and basically said, are there any questions? Nothing's off limits. Any questions before we kick this weekend off? Throw them at me. And this one woman in the front row just raises her hand, and she says, are you going to teach us how to not, blow out our a-holes when we're squatting? Because I've seen in a YouTube video that went viral that somebody was squatting heavy weight, and at the bottom of the squat they blew all their intestines out of their a-hole. And I, as a professional lecturer and as the flow master, it is protocol that in case people in the back can't hear the question, you then repeat the question to the audience so that everybody can benefit from the information. So I said, question from the lady in the front row is, this weekend, will we cover proper techniques so that everyone here doesn't blow their intestines out of their a-hole when they squat? I said, we absolutely will. So let's drive on with the first lecture. So anyway, all kinds of good stuff. You just never know what you're going to get with a live audience. So Phil, hopefully that was enjoyable for you. Okay, next most upvoted question was from Luis, who says or asks, how should we approach mental barriers regarding weights for Olympic lifts? Great question. I reached out to a very good and intelligent buddy of mine, Stefan Roche, and he's got a world of experience. He's a CrossFit trainer for a long period of time. He's been immersed in collegiate strength and conditioning for many years as well. Talented Olympic lifter, came up under coach Mike Bergner, helped Mike Bergner run Olympic weightlifting seminars, so just a fantastic resource. So I asked him, like, in these situations, what do you recommend? And he listed out a few great things to try. So this is what he said are things that help him gain confidence with Olympic lifts or breaking through mental barriers in general or in competition. He always used to tell himself, number one, if you can overhead squat it for a triple, you can snatch it. So if you can overhead squat it for a triple, you can snatch it. Now if you're thinking, I know what my 3-rep max overhead squat is, and I can't snatch that, well then it's a technique issue. So practice, practice. Practice is your friend. You don't necessarily need to get stronger. Unless, of course, now we go down the rabbit hole with words. You don't need to get stronger unless you, depends upon how you define strength. In CrossFit, strength is the productive application of force, which is technique dependent. So you could say by improving your technique, you are indeed getting stronger because technique is the key. But meaning you don't need any more contractile potential in your muscle fibers from that classic kind of exercise science definition of strength. If you can overhead squat it for 3, you can snatch it. Now we just need the motor patterns to make that actually happen. So build up that triple overhead squat. Also said for snatches as well that heavy snatch balances are profoundly useful for developing confidence. In a competition, make sure your first lift is something that you can hit solidly in practice. Get that under the belt. Helps you feel good, gains the confidence. Then go ahead and move forward, try to hit a PR. And in general, he gave a nice little tip that he was a big fan of the Joe Mills drill for not only conditioning, but also practice and building confidence. I was like, the Joe Mills drill? I'm not familiar with this. I'm very happy all of a sudden that we're having this conversation. So I went ahead and did a little research, educated myself. So Joe Mills, got it called up here. He was a national level coach and weightlifter back in the 1930s. Also a member of the Weightlifting Hall of Fame. So he's got some accolades there. And his workout, basically, it's a 20-minute EMOM Mills drill. So I've got it, I saved it. We're going to go ahead and work it into the rotation. But basically what it is, be it with a clean and jerk at the snatch, you're going to do 1 rep on the minute for the first 5 minutes at whatever 70% of your 1 rep max is. So clean and jerk or snatch, every minute on the minute for the first 5 minutes, 1 rep at 70%. Then, for the next 5 minutes, you add 5 kilograms. Then after that, for the next 5 minutes, you add 7.5 kilograms, and then you work yourself up to a heavy single. And I'll post this in the show notes or whatnot so it makes more sense to you. But it's a nice little progression, a nice little drill, and we're going to go ahead and work it in. I think other people will benefit from it. So that is the answer to that. Next thing, now I've lost my place. Where it is? Where is it? Okay. Next one we have here is from Keith B. Keith, let's see. Let me scroll down to your question. I feel like it was near the end. Okay. Which exercises or movements have the highest injury potential for older athletes? Are there some movements that are simply not worth the risk and should just be always scaled or modified or substituted? And then somebody chimed in, Rick chimed in and said, I threw my back out stepping up into the dugout of my kid's ball game the other day. I'm not laughing at you, Rick. I'm laughing with you because I've had silly things happen as well. So, okay, getting back to Keith's question. Are there certain movements that, based upon age, should be either never done, always scaled, always modified, or always substituted? There is no one answer, and that's not a cop-out. That's just the truth. It depends on where you're coming from. What's your background? What's your athleticism? What's your capacity? What's your skill set? What have you been doing your entire life? Do you have any pre-existing injuries? If so, what are they? All those kind of good questions. To use my wife as an example, she's not the same as me. So she was a lifelong gymnast, Division I gymnast. Since 4 years old, she's been in the gym training 5 hours a day. Her walking on her hands or doing a handstand push-up is as easy as me walking on my feet. It's not how it is for me. So there's a good chance that somebody with her background will do some more complicated movement patterns far longer into life than other people with no exaggerated potential for injury, none of that kind of stuff, because it's you have to make the decision based upon the individual athlete, right, and where they're coming from and their skill set. So that's what I mean when I say there's no one particular answer. So no movement, by the way, is inherently dangerous, so to speak. If they were just inherently dangerous movements, we wouldn't do them. We would do something else. Now, some movements could be made or could become unsafe or potentially injurious, but that would be largely due to the individual's poor judgment or user error. And what I mean by that is, are kipping handstand push-ups dangerous? I mean, there's a great movement right there to think about, right? Again, you can't say yes or no. Done properly, how a kipping handstand push-up should be done in a controlled fashion with adequate strength and coordination to properly perform the movement? No, absolutely not. If some athlete, regardless of age, is all they care about is getting a fast time on the clock, beating the person next to them, and to do that, and they don't have the strength, the strict strength really, to control their body weight anyway, and so now they're just bouncing their skull off the floor and rebounding with their cervical spine, hoping to quote-unquote knock out these kipping handstand push-ups, yes, that's not just dangerous. I mean, that's idiotic and should be stopped immediately, but nobody should be doing handstand push-ups like that. Nobody recommends doing handstand push-ups like that. So again, it's not inherently dangerous in the movement. What is that person's actual competency with its skill set, strength level, level of athleticism, coordination, all that kind of good stuff, and then the decision is made from there. And I wrote down here, did you develop the strict strength first? And a lot of people don't, right? They want to rush advancement, rush to the cool stuff, and they didn't spend long enough on what's generally considered not flashy and boring, developing that pure, strict strength and control, and that goes a long way. And the same could be said for pull-ups of the kipping variety or muscle-ups of the kipping variety. Let's see how the strict work looks, and then that helps us make some decisions about what an athlete should or should not be doing, almost regardless of age. Strict pull-ups, ring rows, ring dips, bar dips, box dips, all those things for the win. Just befriend them and develop a lot of capacity with them. For example, what about handstand walking for an older athlete? Handstand walking is wonderfully demanding and beneficial, especially with the neurological components, coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance, and half the basically 10 general physical skills that you really need to be well-rounded. So it would be a shame to avoid complicated movement patterns because that largely forces us to disengage our brain, and that's not what we want. But let's just say they felt unsafe to you, didn't want to do them, felt that they were now outside your purview, whatever it happened to be. I'm not sure that I just used the word purview properly, my apologies. But let's say that you're just not going to do handstand walking, right? Well, you can still get really fit and make great decisions thinking about how to replicate that movement in one way, shape, or form, that almost regardless of the age that the athlete's comfortable with. So maybe instead of handstand walking, you're going to do a handstand hold against a wall. That's it, just a static hold for a rough period of time that you feel would simulate the handstand walk. Doing a static hold against a wall is fantastic, and you're going to get a ton of benefit. Yes, it's not as demanding as handstand walking, but guess what? To be incredibly fit for planet Earth, you're going to be good. Well, what if that was, you could also do shoulder taps against the wall. That could be fine. You could do as we've done yesterday actually in the workout. Laps around a box, in the plank or pike position under the handstand modifications that we have. You could keep your feet on a box in a pike and just do shoulder taps that way, so you don't even have to kick against the wall if you're uncomfortable with that. If all of that stuff still had you uncomfortable, you didn't want any inversion in any way, shape, or form, you could do an overhead carry. Just have a dumbbell or a kettlebell in each hand and walk a set distance with that. You don't have a barbell, you have a kettlebell or a dumbbell in each hand, so there's a bit of instability there as compared to a barbell. Tons of beautiful benefit. You could do that. If you weren't safe with that or comfortable with that, well, then you could have a barbell overhead, and just choose the appropriate loading. So point being, regardless of the athlete's age, once we assess their skill level, previous injuries they've had, and all that stuff, we can find something that keeps them moving in the right direction, really preserves the stimulus of the movement, and life is good. And it's good for a very, very, very long time. Modifications like this are how I plan on doing CrossFit for as long as I'm on planet Earth. What about something profoundly challenging and complicated, right? The full snatch, the barbell snatch. Huge range of motion, very demanding of flexibility. The most technically complicated thing that you can do with a barbell. What about that? Well, that complexity also carries the benefit. I mean, that's one of the reasons that makes it such a great movement is it not only works the body but the mind as well. We want to keep doing technically and mentally complicated and challenging things appropriate to your level for as long as you can. We want to resist dumbing things down as much as we can so that we fully benefit from not only the physical benefits of training but the mental side as well. So the full snatch. Complex, challenging, but that's great. The mind has to be engaged as well as your body to properly execute it. And as you get older, challenging your mind is just critical. So do the movement if you can, right? But let's make some good decisions. Maybe you can do that full movement, that full range of motion, but you just have to reduce the loading. Reduce it, use 75% of the prescribed loading. That doesn't feel good? Well, how does 50% feel? Does 50% feel great? There you go. Mission accomplished. You can get all the benefits of that movement with a reduced loading. Life is good. All the way down to an empty barbell or a PVC pipe. I'll tell you what, empty barbell, if you are later in life and you're just in your garage or in the corner of the gym working snatch technique or doing high rep snatches because you're using a light loading with an empty barbell and you're moving your body through that range of motion and keeping your mind engaged, you are a gladiator warrior compared to everybody else working the planet. The mere fact that you have found an intelligent way to keep doing a movement like that, you are going to seem like a different species compared to your peers. So as long as you can, it's a good thing. Let's see. You can also reduce the intensity, right? There are certain knobs that you can adjust. There's a loading knob, there's an intensity knob, there's a repetition knob, there's several things like that. My young man is on the other side of my window looking through at me, and he just mouthed, "Are you filming?" And I just nodded, "Yes, that I am." He had a lacrosse stick in his hand, so I figure it wasn't mission critical. He probably wanted to throw a lacrosse ball around. So yeah, you've got several knobs that you can adjust. Loading, reps, intensity, and find where's your sweet spot to keep doing that movement. Let's say that movement is just a bit too much going on at once, okay? But maybe you still have the flexibility at the right loading, at the right rep scheme, at the right intensity. Well, maybe you can do a power snatch plus an overhead squat. That's now your new full snatch. Life's good. You're going to be great. Maybe that doesn't quite work. Maybe you can do a hang power snatch followed by an overhead squat. Great. Maybe you know what? You've had some motorcycle wrecks in your life, you got bad shoulders. No matter what happens, the overhead squat, it just ain't happening. Hey, no worries. If you can power snatch, great. Work the power snatch. You're getting in a great fast hip opening, big range of motion in that movement. And then later on, to build some below parallel strength, front squat or back squat. Life's fine. You're gonna be good to go. Or maybe if you can't do the power snatch, well, maybe you can do a power clean followed by a push press. Yep, not as much of a complicated movement. Yes, not quite as fast, but you're still going from the ground to overhead with a beautiful technical movement, an explosive hip opening. Life's good. Let's see. So, long story short, pursue movements, loadings, and intensity levels that are appropriately challenging based on where you are in your fitness journey, and everybody's a bit different. Another good podcast to listen to based upon this exact topic is go back in case you missed it and listen to Linchpin Conversations number 177, the title of which was Your Workout Should Not Be Very Difficult. Kind of clickbait title, I admit. But what I meant by your workout should not be very difficult is it shouldn't be very difficult. It should be slightly difficult, because slightly difficult keeps you engaged mentally, doesn't beat you up, and it's appropriate based upon where you are. If your workout is very difficult, it's probably beyond your skill set, and it's only going to lead to frustration, both physically and mentally, and most people don't stick around with a high level of commitment if they feel frustrated all the time. So finding that sweet spot for the athlete is a big deal. Other things which kind of come up with older athletes, rebounding box jumps, jump up, step down. There's plenty of fitness there. You'll be perfectly good to go. And if at some point in time the jump is an issue, step up, step down. You're good to go. Jumping is incredibly beneficial. I would continue to do it for as long as you feel good doing it. And if that means just, usual prescribed box heights for gentlemen are 24 inches and 20 inches for women, who cares? If you have to reduce that height because you want to keep jumping, but that quote-unquote prescribed height is a bit too high, who cares? Lower it down to whatever's the height that you feel safe and comfortable and you can keep jumping. Fantastic. Tons of benefit there. Let's see. And let's say there's a worst case scenario out there. Just a terrible worst case scenario. You can't do anything technical. And by technical, I mean, high level skillful gymnastics, no handstand walking, no ring muscle ups. I know those aren't complicated for real gymnasts, but for CrossFitters, we think that they are. And no Olympic lifting whatsoever. It ain't going to happen. Okay, well, what can you do? If you can still squat, deadlift, press, find a way to run, bike, or row, do some pull-ups, some kettlebell swings to get some nice hip drive going, you're going to be wonderfully fit. Wonderfully fit. So wherever you are, there's a way that we can make it happen. But there is no one answer of, hey, I'm a certain age, what's the movement that I can't do anymore? Hugely depends upon where you've been and your skill level at that point in time. Okay, final question. Wasn't one of the most upvoted questions, but something that I want to touch on real quick because it's cool and I don't think most people realize what they have at their fingertips, and it's from Amber B. Amber, where are you? Scrolling. Okay, here we go. Curious if, additional strength programs or challenges or things that we could throw out there. So, there's a whole nother podcast we've done, I don't recall what it is, right? About how most athletes don't need extra strength work. Truth be told, they probably need extra conditioning, but nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to lift more. And I'm not saying, Amber, that that's your impetus for the question, but that's just factual data of how most people operate. Everybody wants a little something extra to do with the barbell. Nobody wants more 800-meter repeats at the track. Right? It's tough finding a lifting platform. You can always find a lane at the track. Plenty of space to always run at the track. But, and this also wrapped into this conversation, is need versus want. Maybe you don't need any more lifting, but life isn't supposed to be just what you need. Wants make life wonderful, right? Every now and then you just want to do what you want to do. So if you love lifting, love squatting, deadlifting, snatching, whatever it is, and you just want to do some more of it because you love it, you have my utter and complete, rock on, have a blast. What I don't think most people realize is part of your subscription to the CrossFit Linchpin private track, you obviously get Beyond the Whiteboard as part of that. If you go into the Beyond the Whiteboard app, and in, I want to say, the upper left-hand corner, there's like 3 little lines. Tap the 3 little lines, a drop-down menu will come down, and one of the menus says Programs. Click on Programs, and that will give you access to the Beyond the Whiteboard specialty programs. These things are phenomenal, and we've had a bunch of people from Linchpin use them, so feel free to ask in the Facebook group people's experiences with them. They're beautifully and expertly laid out, largely linear progressions that is usually like 17 to 20 sessions where you'll do 2 or 3 sessions a week. So they're roughly 7 weeks long, 6 to 8 weeks long. Let's go ahead and say that. They're fantastic. And they have them for not only barbell movements, but body weight as well. So I scratched down what they are. You have all of these linear progressions laid out at your fingertips. You just click on one and you can add it to your training schedule at any point in time. There's one on how to get your first strict pull-up, first kipping pull-up, first kipping bar muscle-up, first strict ring muscle-up, first toes to bar, first push-up, first strict handstand push-up. Go ahead and get yourself your first 5-foot handstand walk, and then we get into the barbell stuff. Linear progression to increase your 1 rep max clean. There's one for the 1 rep max jerk, 1 rep max snatch. There's a deadlift capacity program, a shoulder press program, a back squat program, and a bench press program. They're all right there. They're fantastic. And if you want to dive in, dive on in. And the other part, which you said, which I can't let the cat out of the bag too much, but you mentioned challenges. And all I can say is, yes, we are working at Beyond the Whiteboard to start putting out what I hope is monthly challenges. I can't say much more at this moment, okay, but they're going to be really cool. They're going to be really fun. You're going to be able to get some cool swag. There'll be leaderboards and friendly competitions. I think people are going to have a very, very good time, and those will be promoted or made public in the very near future, and I think the Linchpin community will adore them. So that's it. Okay, well, thank you for all the fantastic questions. Hope everybody's enjoying their rest day, and I'm going to get back to pecking away at this computer. We'll talk later.